For canceling the trip I funded after they invited my nightmare ex? My name is Natalie, and at 29 years old many people would say I did well for myself. I work at a marketing agency, have a comfortable apartment in Phoenix, and earn enough to live peacefully. What I no longer have is a husband, and if I am honest, I am better off this way. I divorced Derek a little over a year ago after 3 years that, without exaggerating, were hell. I met him when I was 25 at a friend's party. He was one of those guys who could charm you easily. He had a nice smile and made everyone laugh. He seemed grounded. 6 months later we were already married. And that was when everything went wrong. Almost immediately Derek started hanging out with a new group. They were the typical guys who always had a plan but never a good one. A lot of partying, a lot of drinking, and zero stability. At first I told myself it was just a phase he would get over. Then I started counting the nights he came home late smelling of alcohol. When I confronted him, it was not that he got annoyed. He would get into a mood that made my blood boil. He would answer me with this hard look, as if I were his enemy. There were threats, things I still have a hard time believing came from someone who swore he loved me. I took too long to accept what was happening. I made up excuses for him. He is stressed. He just needs support. If I leave him, he will get worse. And while I tried to fix everything, he was falling apart. The last night he arrived at 2 in the morning. He stumbled in with heavy breath, as if the air in the living room had filled with that smell. "They fired me," he babbled, dropping onto the couch like a sack. Something inside me broke. It was not huge anger, it was a cold clarity. "Enough, Derek," I said. "This is it. Tomorrow I am going to look for a lawyer. I am getting a divorce. I cannot do this anymore." What happened next still appears in my dreams, but I am not going to go into details. I will only say what is necessary. That night a serious situation unfolded, leaving me with bruises all over my body and a sprained wrist. It hurt even to breathe, but what hurt the most was realizing how far things had gone. When he finally fell asleep, I did not think twice. I grabbed my bag, my cell phone, and left without making a sound. I drove to my friend Megan's house, who lived nearby in the same neighborhood. She opened the door in her pajamas, her eyes terrified when she saw me. "What happened to you?" "I cannot talk out here," I told her, almost without a voice. "I need you to let me in." From her living room I called 911. Then she went with me to the emergency room so there would be a record of my injuries. I did not just want to heal. I wanted it registered because deep down I already knew that what was coming was going to be difficult. The divorce was fast. Derek left the apartment, and as part of the process he was ordered to attend anger management therapy. I tried to pick up the pieces of my life and move on. My parents and my younger sister, Haley, were there. At least that is what I thought. They gave me the speech of "We support you, we are here." I clung to that idea as if it were a life preserver until last month, when they ripped it right out of my hands. It was a dinner at my parents' house in the suburbs on a random Sunday. One of those that feel safe because they are familiar. It was the 4 of us, my parents, Michael and Linda, Haley, who is 26, and me. Between the soup and the main course my mom brought up the topic as if it were something light. "We were thinking we should take a family trip," she said with a little smile. "The 3 of us and your dad, just us. In June it would be perfect," she added. "It is not too hot here yet, but over there it is. Beach, ocean, we really need it." I honestly got excited not because I needed the beach, but because it sounded like a breather, like something normal, like feeling part of something again. "Where to?" I asked. "Miami Beach," my mom said, almost singing it. "A long week. Sand, sunsets." My dad cleared his throat as if he were about to break some difficult news. "Look, honey," he started. "The truth is we wanted to ask you a favor, for you to help us with the flights and the hotel." It was not a surprise. My parents have always struggled with money. My dad has a small hardware store that barely stays afloat. And my mom works part-time at the local library. Haley works as a receptionist and always has the same speech about how she cannot afford anything. And compared to them, I do earn well. "Yes, of course," I replied without thinking. "I will pay for it." I was already used to it. The month before I had covered the repairs for my dad's truck and Haley's dental work. Every time something broke down, I was the way out. My mom clasped her hands happily. Oh, you do not know how much I appreciate it. I can already see myself in the ocean. During the next 3 weeks, I started getting everything moving. I requested time off at work, bought 4 flights, booked the hotel, reserved a double room for my parents and 2 single rooms, one for Haley and one for me. I also bought myself a new swimsuit and started looking up places to eat and things to do there. I liked planning. It made me feel like I was in control of something. 1 week before departure, I got a text message from my mom. I need to talk to you. Come to dinner today. It is important. My stomach did a flip. Important from my mom could be anything from the water heater breaking to someone getting sick. I answered yes, that I would go right after work. I spent the day distracted with that knot in my chest. When I arrived at my parents' house, the first thing that surprised me was seeing Haley also sitting there as if she were waiting for applause. She had a huge smile, one of those that do not fit on your face. What is going on? I asked, looking at the 3 of them. Everything is fine, let us eat dinner first, my dad said, leading me to the dining room. My mom had made my favorite chicken casserole. That did not calm me down. On the contrary, in my family, when they cook what you like, it is because they are going to drop something difficult on you and they do not want you to explode. We sat down. I waited for them to serve. I took a bite without any appetite and let out what I had been holding back. Well, what is so important? My dad took a deep breath. There is a small change of plans with the trip. My mom did not look directly at me. We are going to add someone, she said quietly. Haley could not hold it in anymore. I am engaged, she blurted out, raising her left hand. She was wearing a discreet ring, a little stone that shone in the dining room light. She was radiant, as if the whole world was going to stand up to celebrate her. I was in shock for a second, but I reacted the way you are supposed to. Really, I said. Haley, what a surprise. Congratulations. I had no idea you were with someone serious. And who is it? I asked, still trying to process the news. The dining room went silent. My parents looked at each other nervously. Haley's smile changed. It turned into a weird sort of triumph. You know him pretty well, she said. In fact, too well. And then she said it slowly, as if she wanted to savor the blow. It is Derek. I felt the air leave me. Derek, I repeated. Derek, my ex-husband. Haley nodded without losing her smile. We have been dating for 3 months. And yes, we are serious. My fork fell onto the plate with a noise that seemed huge to me. I turned to my parents, expecting someone to say it is a joke. Of course not, this is wrong. But no one said it. Did you guys know? I asked, and my voice came out louder than I wanted. My mom let out a sigh as if I were a problem. Yes, Natalie, we already knew. And you think this is normal? I said. Are you really telling me this just like that? My dad shifted uncomfortably, but he did not speak. Haley dug the spoon right where it hurt the most. He changed. He is not the same anymore. I looked at her as if she were speaking another language. Changed, I repeated. Haley, you know what he did to me. My mom pursed her lips in annoyance, but with that tone of wanting to shut down the topic. Oh, Natalie, do not bring that up anymore. What happened between you two was a fight that got out of control, nothing more. I felt my eyes burning, but I did not cry. I stayed still, trying to understand how she could say that. Mom, you saw me in the emergency room. You saw the bruises and him, not a scratch. My dad looked down. Haley rolled her eyes. Derek told me his version, she said, leaning toward me. He says you were the aggressive one, that you used to hit him, that night he only defended himself. A dry, bitter laugh escaped me, the kind that comes out when you do not know what else to do. Really, I said. I ended up in the emergency room. What are you talking about? Haley shrugged. I believe my fiancé. Fiancé. The word disgusted me. My dad finally spoke with a soft voice, trying to make peace. He has been going to therapy. He says he does not drink anymore. People change, Natalie. I pushed my plate away. I could no longer eat or breathe comfortably. I am not going on any trip with him, I said. That is final. My parents looked at each other again as if they had already rehearsed what was coming next. My mom spoke calmly, as if she were closing a deal. We understand. We respect your decision, but we are going, my dad added. My stomach sank. What do you mean you are going to go? I asked slowly. We will give your place to Derek, my mom said. Your flight is already there. Your hotel. Well, everything is in your name, right? Haley lit up as if she had just won. And you are going to have to adjust the hotel, she said. Instead of 2 single rooms, better a double for him and me. I was left speechless, not because I had no words but because what I was hearing was not registering in my head. So, I said at last with a calm that even surprised me, you are asking me to cancel my vacation, which I already requested at work, and on top of that pay so that my ex-husband, the exact same one who hurt me, can go on a trip with you. Nobody contradicted me. Nobody said, no, it is not like that. I stood up. I felt my hands shaking, but I was not going to break down in front of them. I am leaving now, I said. I grabbed my bag, my jacket, and walked to the door. And the worst part was that no one stopped me, no one followed me, no one said, wait. They let me go as if I were a nuisance they were finally getting rid of. I drove to my apartment on autopilot. I live in Central Phoenix in a quiet building. I arrived, closed the door, and stood for a moment looking at the living room as if it were not mine. I expected to cry. I really thought I was going to fall apart, but what I felt was something else. A cold, clean anger, like a decision forming on its own. I poured a glass of wine, sat in front of the computer, and went into my reservations. First I canceled the 4 flights to Miami Beach, then I canceled the hotel. Everything was in my name. I had paid for all of it. I took screenshots of every cancellation confirmation, one by one, and sent them via text message to my mom and Haley. Vacation plan canceled. Everything was in my name, so it no longer exists. Have a good time in June. I sent the message before guilt or doubt could win me over. Yes, I lost some of the non-refundable deposit. Yes, it hurt to waste money, but it hurt more to imagine Derek, the man who made me live in fear, smiling at my family in the pool on a trip paid for by me. 15 minutes passed, and my cell phone started blowing up. Calls from my mom, from Haley, from my dad. I did not answer. I put the phone on silent and sat there with my glass, my heart racing but firm. When I checked the messages an hour later, I knew I had not made a mistake. My mom. How can you do this to us? You are a bad, selfish daughter. It is better you do not even show up. We are better off without you. Haley. You are so jealous. You cannot stand seeing me happy. Get over it already. You are dead to me. I let out a short laugh. Not of joy, of disbelief. I blocked both of their numbers. Then my dad's. Years of being their emotional support and their financial support. Paying for emergencies, solving problems, listening to complaints, putting my face out there for everyone. What for? So that when it suited them they would turn around and erase me. A week went by. At work my vacation was still approved, but I did not know what to do. It made me angry thinking about being home while they went on a trip, even if it was wherever. One night, out of habit, I opened social media and saw a post from Haley. There were the 4 of them, Haley, my parents, and Derek, standing in front of my parents' house with suitcases at their feet. Haley's smile looked painted on. The text said, heading on a real vacation. Only the important ones, no dead weight. It became crystal clear to me that even though I had canceled everything, they had gotten their way somehow. In order to go with Derek they managed, borrowed money, cut back wherever they could, and put together a cheap plan on their own. Several aunts and cousins commented, confusedly asking about me, asking why Derek was there. A couple of people wrote to me directly. What happened? Is everything okay? Why is your ex there? I did not answer. What was I going to say? That my family chose the man who hurt me, that they had decided to pretend nothing happened. It made me sad, it made me furious, it made me tired, but it did make one thing clear to me. I was not going to stay still. That same night I looked for a last-minute deal and booked 2 weeks at an adults-only resort in the Florida Keys. Beach, sun, silence. What I needed was not to have fun, it was to breathe. As the date approached I felt a weird mix. Anger for what they did to me, sadness for what I lost, and on top of that a feeling I did not expect. Freedom. I no longer had to be the responsible one. I no longer had to carry the word family as if it were a debt. On the day of the flight I closed my social media and put an out-of-office notice on my email. I left my messaging apps on silent. I was not going to spend my days checking messages or waiting for drama. It was my time. When the plane took off, I rested my head back and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I felt something loosen inside me. In the Florida Keys, I dedicated myself to the simple things. I woke up without an alarm. I walked on the beach, swam in the ocean. I explored local attractions, took a boat tour, ate fresh seafood at a waterfront restaurant. At night, I ate dinner peacefully, without having to explain my life to anyone. Sometimes I chatted for a little bit with people I met there, a couple from Canada, a traveler from Australia, but most of the time I spent it alone, and that was the best. I stayed in a quiet hotel, adults only. No screaming kids in the pool. No running in the hallways, pure calm. I read 4 novels. I slept like I had not slept in years. And most importantly, I stopped having nightmares. I did not check social media, I did not check email, I used my cell phone to the minimum, only for photos of the sunset, of the sea, of pretty things that would remind me that my life could be light. I did not turn on my phone until the return flight. As soon as it got a signal, it started vibrating like crazy. Missed calls from my parents' landline, unknown numbers, messages from friends who did not understand anything. The most recent message was from my mom, from a day before. Call me as soon as you see this. It is an emergency. I was about to ignore it. For them, an emergency could be anything. That Haley needed money, that something broke, that they came up short with payments. But something poked me inside, an instinct. So already in my apartment, after unpacking and taking a shower, I dialed. My mom answered on the first ring. Natalie, is that you? Yes, I said without emotion. What is the emergency? Thank God. She let out and her voice broke. We have spent days looking for how to find you. What happened? I asked, still watching my tone. It is about the trip and about Derek. If you are going to tell me about how great a time you had with my ex, I said, and reached my hand toward the button to hang up. I am not interested. No, wait, she raised her voice. It was a disaster. Natalie, you were right. That did stop me. What? I said, and that is when my surprise slipped out. What happened? My mom started talking fast, as if the words were going to get stuck if she did not let them out. In the end, we did not go to Miami Beach, you know. We could not afford it. We went to Panama City Beach to a cheap hotel. The first day everything was fine. We arrived, settled in, ate, we even got into the pool for a while. But the second night, that is when everything fell apart. She paused as if she were embarrassed. Haley felt sick and went up to the room early. Your dad, Derek, and I stayed downstairs for a while in the hotel bar area. Derek said he was going to the bathroom and he took a very long time. I kept silent. I listened to her. Your dad went to look for him. He could not find him anywhere. He got desperate and went up to check on Haley and found her crying. Like she was out of her mind. My mom's voice trembled. Haley caught him. She went into the room and discovered him in an inappropriate situation with a hotel employee. A young woman, the same one who helped us when we arrived. There was a major confrontation, my mom continued. Derek lost control. He yelled terrible things at Haley. Your dad tried to step in and Derek pushed him. He threatened all of us, said we were going to regret it, and then he took off, grabbed his things and left with that woman. I took a deep breath. And now you guys found it weird. I blurted out, unable to help it. Derek has always been Derek. That is not the worst part, my mom said, and lowered her voice as if she were confessing something shameful. The next day we saw charges on the cards, withdrawals, purchases. Natalie, it was several $1,000s. How? I asked, although I was already imagining it. My mom took a second. We had the PIN written down, she said, as if it burned her tongue, in the wallet so we would not forget it. I do not know how, but I laughed. Came out. It was not a happy laugh. It was that laugh that comes out when irony hits you right in the face. So, I said slowly, the man you defended, the one you chose over me, not only cheated on Haley, he also robbed you. My mom did not answer quickly. We made a mistake, she said finally, almost in a whisper. We are going to file a police report for the theft. But here it came. We need help, she said. We do not have money to cover everything, and the bank is not going to resolve anything for us until they investigate. There was the real motive. It was not to ask for my forgiveness, it was not to fix something. It was so that I would rescue them once again. Let me understand this, I said, and it surprised me how calm I sounded. You disowned me with words. You told me you were better off without me. You told me I was dead to you. You chose the man who hurt me. And now you want me to fix your problem. We are family, my mom said, as if that explained everything. I did not respond. You made it extremely clear to me that I am not your family when it suits you, and I am not going to pay for your decisions. Natalie, I am not going to give you a single dollar, I said without yelling. And do not ever look for me again. I hung up. I blocked the number. The following days aunts, cousins, and acquaintances started calling me, all with the same tone. Oh, those poor things, oh, your dad, oh, your sister, oh, one does not abandon family. I blocked them one by one. Then they started showing up. First they arrived at my building. The security guard called me to let me know because I had already left word not to let them up. Later they went to my office. I was in a meeting when I was notified that there were some people insisting. They had already caused a scene at reception. Corporate security kicked them out. The second time they escorted my dad out, one of the security managers, Ms. Reynolds, approached me completely calm. Would you like us to add them to a restricted access list? So they cannot enter or insist at reception. It made me sad. Yes, but it also gave me relief. Yes, please, I replied. Thank you for handling it discreetly. I did the same at my building. I asked the administration that under no circumstances should they let my parents or Haley in. It sounded extreme, but it was necessary. They had shown me that they did not respect boundaries. Over time I found out what was happening with them through third parties. My mom and my dad borrowed money from relatives to cover part of the credit card debt. They filed a police report but without much hope of recovering anything. Haley started therapy, they said, devastated by the infidelity and by my decision to step away. I felt nothing and that scared me a little, but it was real. After what they did to me, I had run out of energy to pity them. One night, having dinner with Megan, the same friend who opened the door for me the night I left Derek, she asked me the question that everyone avoided. Do you think you will ever forgive them? She asked, looking at me carefully. In the end, they are your family. I kept thinking, taking a sip from my glass. I do not know, I replied. Right now I cannot imagine it. Megan nodded slowly. It was not just any mistake, right? No, I said. It was not that they got a date wrong or that they said something without thinking. They saw me, they knew, they heard what happened, and even so they chose Derek. That does not get erased. That night, walking back to my apartment, I felt something I had not felt in years. Lightness. For so long I carried their needs, their expectations, their problems, and suddenly I was only responsible for myself. 3 months passed since that call with my mom. We were already in September, and the mornings felt cooler. My life settled into a routine that I liked. Work, exercise, dinners with friends, weekend outings. I even started dating people again. Nothing serious. Coffees, dinners, talks with men who made me laugh and did not scare me. Last week I got promoted to senior marketing director. They gave me a huge raise in my own office. I celebrated it however I wanted. I bought myself some extremely expensive shoes that I had been looking at for months. Before, that money would have gone towards supporting my parents with the old water heater or bailing Haley out of a debt. This time it was for me, and I did not feel guilty. Every now and then I get news about them. My cousin Justin calls me every few weeks. He has tact. He does not pressure me, he just tells me the basics. Your uncle had a scare, he told me last time. High blood pressure. He is already on medication, nothing serious, but they got scared. Good thing it was not anything serious, I replied, and I truly meant it. Your Aunt Linda is taking on more hours at the library, Justin continued, and Haley moved back in with them. She left the apartment because she could no longer pay the rent alone. I listened without commenting too much. Your uncle also asked about you, Justin added near the end, as if he did not want to put weight on it. But he did not dare to call you. I squeezed the mug between my hands without saying anything. The thing with Derek did not move forward, Justin continued. He disappeared. Not a trace. It did not surprise me. That kind of person knows how to vanish when their usefulness runs out. The bank told them they could not proceed because of the written down PIN, Justin said, as if he were embarrassed. I see, I replied. That happens. Justin stayed quiet for a second. My aunt asked about you again, he said at the end. She wanted to know if you changed your number. I did not change it, I replied. I just do not answer them. Justin hesitated. Haley is going through an ugly phase, he told me. She was diagnosed with depression. I felt a tiny prick of compassion, brief, and then the image of her triumphant face came to me, announcing her engagement to Derek. I am sorry, I said. I really do not wish that on her. I know, Justin sighed. But they are certainly paying for it. Yes, I replied. They messed up badly. I hung up and stayed on the balcony for a good while with a glass of wine, watching the city lights turn on. There was a moment when I wondered if I was being too harsh, if I was closing the door forever out of pride. But then I remembered my mom telling me I was exaggerating. I remembered my dad's silence while watching it all and choosing not to intervene. I remembered Haley's messages wishing me the worst. No, it was not harshness. It was a boundary. I started therapy after all that. At first I was embarrassed. Then I understood that it was one of the best decisions I could make. Putting distance is not revenge, my therapist told me in a session. It is protection. You do not owe them access to your life if they have shown that they cannot take care of your well-being. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had gone on that trip like I planned at the beginning. If I would have endured a week pretending everything was fine, with Derek smiling as if he were a saint. If my family would have kept justifying him, if I would have broken inside in silence, I will never know. And the truth is it gives me peace. Yesterday I received a letter, a paper letter like the ones almost nobody sends anymore. It had a local postmark and my mom's handwriting on the envelope. That neat and careful handwriting. I held it in my hand for a good while. I was extremely close to throwing it away without opening it, but curiosity won me over. I sat in the kitchen and opened the envelope carefully. Dear Natalie, it said. The letter was long, 4 pages written on both sides. My mom talked about how wrong they were, how blind. She recounted in detail how Derek kept putting ideas into Haley's head little by little, how he kept separating her from friendships, how he filled her head with lies about me, about my marriage, about what really happened. She also wrote something that left me frozen. After Derek left them in Panama City Beach, they found a small bag with pills in the room, things they did not know he was taking. We should have believed you, she wrote. There is no excuse. We betrayed you in the worst way and we live with that. She did not ask me for money, she did not ask me to come back, she did not demand forgiveness. She only asked if someday I would be willing to talk. At the end she left a new cell phone number. I folded the letter and kept it in the same envelope. Then I put it in a desk drawer. I was not ready to answer. I was not ready to decide. Today I woke up, made coffee and checked my planner. I had lunch with Megan, a presentation in the afternoon and dinner with Connor, a man I have been dating for a couple of weeks, calm, respectful, one of those who do not rush you or pressure you. I went out to the balcony with my mug and watched the sunrise paint the sky pink and orange. I felt calm, not movie happy, no. There is still a sadness that remains for what I lost, or rather for what I never had. A family that chose me, parents who protected me, a sister who believed me. But I also know this. I built a good life. I have friendships that do hold me up. I have a job I like. I have a home where I feel safe. And I stopped living with the obligation to rescue people who were never going to rescue me. Will I ever dial the number my mom left in the letter? I do not know. Not today, maybe not tomorrow. Maybe in months or in years. I am no longer angry like before. Not with that anger that burns. That is also progress, but I am not ready to let them in again. Trust, when it breaks like that, cannot be glued back together with a pretty letter. For now I am focused on me, on healing, on building relationships with people who value me, who believe me, who respect my boundaries. Perhaps someday I will be ready to listen to an apology from my mom, to look my dad in the eyes, to hear Haley without feeling my chest tighten. But if that day arrives, it will be on my terms when I am ready, and with something very clear from the beginning. I am no longer the one who fixes everything. I am no longer the one who pays for everything. I am no longer the one who breaks herself so that others can be comfortable. Comment. This story touched me deeply. I've learned that setting firm boundaries is one of the most important ways to protect ourselves. You deserve relationships where your feelings and experiences are truly respected. Sometimes, walking away is the kindest thing you can do for your own heart. Healing becomes possible once we stop carrying the weight of other people's choices. Taking responsibility for your peace is never selfish. It's necessary. Be gentle with yourself as you learn to put your well-being first. Trust that inner voice when it tells you something no longer serves you. The right people will understand and support your need for space and growth. You have the strength to create a calmer, lighter life for yourself. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.